Carl Johnson here. Sherry Gieske.
Here.
Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Mueller.
Present.
Ryan Curry.
Here.
Tom Wahlberg.
Here.
Bill Robertson.
Here.
Sherry Bartelt.
Here.
Rodney Riley.
Here.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Here.
Don't have any minutes to approve. They'll be on, we're gonna have them ready for next meeting. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by, who was that by? Mr. Mueller?
We'll see.
Dave Wiltsey, seconded by Mr. Larson.
Yep.
Perfect. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. I believe we have one for public comment. Is that correct?
Hi, I'm introducing tonight Eric from Bakery, and I'm providing everybody on the board with some of their goodies tonight. I would like them to talk about their business because they even pull people all the way in from Chicago, which also helps everybody downtown, and it also helps the county. This is Eric.
Okay, thank you very much. If you could just, for our record, could you state your name and address, just for our record?
So my name is Erica Simmons, 107 Buchanan Street.
Caleb Simmons, also 107 Buchanan Street.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like I don't need a microphone. I'm really loud.
Oh, we need a microphone just to record.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you first for allowing me to come tonight. Us to come tonight. We really appreciate you guys giving us the time. And it's been quite a while since we've met Sherry, but she's been so sweet and kind to us. Our business has been open for 4 years now. Hopefully going on 5. In what's it? April next year will be 5 years. So we started on 107 Buchanan. And then we took over the space right next door in 2020, 2 days before the shutdown. So we have really good timing as business owners. But thankfully, everything's been wonderful. We love being part of Belvedere. And it is true, most of our clients, we kind of focus a lot on weddings. We do have a retail space where people can come visit us on Saturdays. But a lot of the majority of our business is focused on weddings. And we do bring most of our clients, I haven't done the math recently, but for sure last year, I'd say about 80% were Chicagoland area couples and a few like Geneva, and then a few like Rockford, Belvedere area. The reason why I think that's a great thing, sometimes people are like, what, you don't service your area? We do service our area, but it's wonderful to bring in outside people. Sounds bad, but if you bring in outside money to our community, like it's such a great way for business, not just for us, but for surrounding businesses. You know, if they're making a trip all the way out, a lot of times they ask us, okay, where can we get coffee? Where can we get dinner? All that stuff. So it's really nice to be able to point them to places in our community and hopefully not just grow our business, but the other businesses around us. But yeah. You want to share anything? Yeah, that's pretty much it. We are a little different for the area just because we do make everything from scratch. All the fillings, buttercreams, cake. I was formally trained as a chef and then went to pastry school. So being able to use those kinds of skills in our community is awesome. We also employ 4 women in our community, which I think is amazing. They're all part-time right now, but hopefully we can get them full-time eventually. And yeah, that's basically it, our business in a nutshell. And we're really thankful to be here.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Mueller?
So I'm a dairy farmer. Where do you get your products from?
Yeah, so we get a few different for a few different places. So mostly Cisco. We have a distributor come and like give us our products. Sometimes we do go to like Sam's depending on availability, especially this year, and a little bit of like the end of last year, and really rough supply chain has been insane. So when they don't have stuff there, we try to like source things from like Sam's or Jam Fest, that kind of thing. If we could get ties with local like vendors, that would be incredible. I know we have reached out to an orchard about like berries and stuff because we can freeze berries and like make our jams and stuff. Excuse me. But that was something that they didn't want to do at the time. But that was just one particular like orchard. But yeah, if there's any connections, even with like flour and stuff right now, we try to use King Arthur flour just because I think the quality is amazing. It's unbleached. It is, it's not organic, but it is like fair trade. Like it's just really good quality. So we try to get everything as best as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wiltsey?
I missed the name of the company. Could you get that again?
So our bakery is called PK Kinkery. So it's with a C, kind of like bakery but with a C. And the reason why we named it that is because we didn't start with just cake, and now we provide other things like cupcakes, brownies, macarons, marshmallows, that kind of stuff.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Riley?
Free advertisement, where are you located?
Yeah, so we're located on Buchanan Street, and both 105 and 107 is our address. So we're right next to each other. One is the kitchen and consultation area, and then the other one is the retail space where we're open on Saturdays.
Anyone else? Miss
Kind of
Dell?
cupcakes you brought us.
Yeah, so we have 3 cupcakes tonight. One is blueberry maple. That one has gotten really popular. We were on a show called Good Day State Line, and we brought that cake to them, and it kind of exploded. We've had lots of requests for it. People really like the flavor combo. They say it reminds them of pancakes. We also brought creme brulee, which is my personal favorite. So it's a frostingless cupcake. It's like a butter cake. We fill it with vanilla pastry cream and then caramelize the top with fresh berries. So it's like really good if you're not like into sugary sweets. It's really good. And then the other one is chocolate raspberry. And inside of that one is our honey jam. And yeah, we really like it.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the sweet treats to you and Ms. Bartel. Thank you for the sweet treats. And, I'm sorry, Ms. Kieske.
Bring any business cards?
Yes, I do have some.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to pass them out, that'd be great. Or set them up here. We can pass them around. Something like that'd be great. Super. All right. Good luck to you as you continue being a part of the Boone County community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Great business on Saturday morning, and usually if you come in too late, like I said, she's only open from 10 to 1. If you get there sometimes even after 11, it's on.
Yeah, we do sell out very often, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none. Mr. Curry, the meeting is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, we'll move on to 6 presentations and start with the sheriff.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Okay, we'll jump right to it. Overtime report, kind of keep everybody fixed up where we're at. Patrols, about 8% over budget. Dispatch is 30% over budget, and corrections is 11% over budget, which is a lot better where corrections have ever been. Our staffing levels are improving. Patrol, we have 1 in FTO. We just hired 2 new officers, which we're very pleased about. One of those officers was a lateral transfer from Cherry Valley, who's been outstanding, so he's been released on his own. We currently have 1 officer down at PTI, so he will graduate the week of the fair. So we are getting our patrol shifts up. A lot of people have returned to work. It's been very, very positive. We are testing for new recruits, the 2-year list. and that's on July 30th. So it's on our website. Encourage anybody who wants to test with us, July 30th, if it's local at Belvedere South Middle School. We would encourage as many people to come and test with us. So, and we are hiring 2 in September. We have 2 openings PTI in September. So we're trying to place as many as we can. And obviously we're going to have some retirements besides mine and Chief Deputy Perry Gay. So we're trying to keep up to staff as best as we can. We're still behind, but we feel really good about the people that we've hired. So things are going very, very good in the patrol section. Dispatch, we are finally getting up to our ranks. You know, I've been talking about this for the last couple of years. We're finally getting our ranks up. We hired 2 more, one being bilingual. She's actually was a dispatcher out of Elgin. So she transferred out here. She lives here, which we're very excited about. So we currently have 3 new girls going through the FTO program, dispatch center. With that staff being added, now we can finally move one of our dispatchers into the 911 coordinator position, which has been vacant for almost a year probably. So that's a huge benefit for us. So we're really, really excited about that. Our records, the girls, our new people we've hired in records, absolutely outstanding. Both of them are bilingual. They're outstanding employees, as well as our new maintenance guy has been fantastic. Corrections, we're really in a holding pattern with all the police reform that I've talked about over the last year plus coming. It's just going to be, we have to see where the dust settles with this, because it's going to be kind of the next section of police reform is January 1st, 2022. At 12:01 a.m., we'll probably release half the people we have in our jail.
See, I knew that was coming.
And that's absolutely horrible, but that's just part of the whole no bond process. So we don't want to build up our staff, you know, obviously, if we're going to have to look at any type of reduction in staff. So we just had Sergeant Karen Savine, who's been here 36 years, retire. She's a sergeant. We're not going to be replacing that position. We're going to be doing some different things at the corrections facility in the next 6 months. But with the police reform, we'll arrest people. We'll give them a court date. No longer will people go to jail as often. So we'll give them the court date. But it is such a disaster, in my opinion, and not good for Boone County. When we arrest people, we will give them a court date on a piece of paper. Here's your court date. If they do not show for that court date, now we have to track them down, and it's another paper service. So instead of going out to arrest them, we will now track people down and serve another piece of paper on them and said, you missed your first court date. Now here's another court date. You need to come and explain why you missed the first one. Total joke. And so unfortunately, these are not put in the leads. So nobody's going to know who's missed court dates. So nobody's going to know who's been arrested. And this is in the entire state of Illinois. And outside the state, nobody will know when these people don't miss court dates. So you can only imagine with our court system, you know, once criminals, you know, discover that the worst thing that happens to me if I don't go to court is they're going to have to track me down and serve another paper on me for another court. So if they strike out 2 times, then possibly we can get a warrant for their arrest. So I personally believe they're going to have to change this. I think the next year will be a disaster. I think they're going to realize pushing this bill through had a reverse effect. All counties, all sheriff's office, they have no idea what's there. This bill is so confusing that the state's attorneys all differ, the police departments all differ, and the court systems all differ. So it's really, I believe it's going to be a sad start of 2023. when all jail facilities in the state of Illinois begin to release people. I've been told probably almost 400 people in Rockford will be released that day. How is this good for our communities? I don't understand. So these are things that we'll talk about in the future. So with that being said, our Boone County Jail may turn out to be a processing center more than a facility that we hold inmates, at the way it's going. So, hopefully they can continue to make changes. Hopefully they can discover that this is going to be a disaster. And we'll just kind of fight through it. And once people realize the changes that are coming, I think the silent majority will step up and say enough is enough. This is not going to be good for our communities statewide. So that's what I'm hoping.
Excuse me. Hey, so if it does get to the point where they get a warrant and you do actually apprehend them, are they actually detained still for a period, or are they given another court date?
No, there will be a bond.
Yeah,
there will be a bond.
That's the only thing that will kick that in.
Yeah. But to think of we may have to add staff to do paper service.
Yeah.
Because, we just can't, have civilians or corrections go out and serve papers on these individuals, because these individuals are going to believe that they're there to arrest them. So we're going to have trained officers, track these people down with paper service. So, when you think of Boone County, think of these bigger jurisdictions. Think of your Lake counties, your Cook counties, your, it is going to be mass confusion when it comes, and nobody's going to know who's wanted, because we can't put that into leads because it's not an actual warrant. So paper services don't go into leads, which is nationally and locally. So without that being done, I don't know what's going to happen. So time will tell. Moving on, we're finally going to switch over all our sheriff's office and Belvedere City police channels to encrypted. We've held out one of the longer jurisdictions, with scanner land out there, keeping people informed. We stayed unencrypted. We have a couple encrypted, but for the most part, all our main channels were non-encrypted. Over time, encryption has become more and more important. We've had a couple incidents recently where we've gone to gang houses and they already knew that we were coming. So it's more of an officer safety issue rather than, keep the public in the dark, which we will always put our officers first. So that's something that will be coming. We're in the middle of changing that over. So in case you hear feedback from, citizens, it's very easy, it's officer safety. So again, the way the world is right now, it's kind of a no-brainer. Moving right along, we were able to sell several old vehicles and seize vehicles. They sold in the online auction for over $30,000. So, which is fantastic. It's amazing that people buy junk police cars, but there's a big fad on that. So, all that money will then go into either seized into our drug fund or a DUI fund or vehicle replacement, depending on what vehicle was sold, whether it was a police car or was a seized car. We did receive the architect plans for the courthouse upgrade, which I think 2-3 months ago I was here talking about. Judge Tobin had approached us with our jury, redoing the jury rooms. It's very old. The bathrooms are in the same room where the juries are at. It's extremely embarrassing. I know some of some of you have actually seen the jury room. It's absolutely horrible for people to be in this room for long periods of time. So the architect got the plans done. It's being reviewed by Judge Tobin and the staff of the courthouse. So then if they have any other suggestions, we'll take that back to the architect and they will give us a rough idea. It's very hard to estimate what, would be when it comes to labor and material right now, but at least they'll give us a good idea of, is this going to be, $100,000 job or is it going to be a $2 million job? So once we get that information back, then we'll get it to county admin, and it's something that we can approach the board and see what direction we want to go with. But it's a long time coming, and really until we get to cost, we're going to see if it's even feasible to do. The good part is we'll have the plan, so if we can't do it now, in the future, we'll be able to, do that. But with all the things that have happened, financially now might be the best time as ever, because we may never have funds again. So we'll talk about that down the road. We did replace all the sidewalks in front of the PSB. Again, we've been sued a couple times. The cracks were horrible and people were falling down. And so all those were replaced at I'd say a pretty good price. It was really an estimate or a bid that we had from last year. So they honored that bid. So it turned out really, really well. It was Bob Kaler, his company, did a real nice job in the front of our building. Lastly, on the next county board meeting, I'll put on the agenda officer recognition. Kevin Smythe, Sergeant, finished up with Staff of Command, which is that advanced training that I talk about, training our replacements, either moving up the ranks. So all our command people will either go to the FBI Academy or Staff of Command, which just makes our department better. And then we'll be recognizing a Deputy Rhonda Moore, really with a Life Savings Award, where she was able to take a loaded gun out of a mouth of a subject who was going to commit suicide. So did a really, really nice job with that. So with that being said, if there's any questions or concerns, I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Sherry?
Just a couple. Dave, you said you listed state's attorneys and judges and everybody else all differed. In other words, to this new law. So they were all opposed to it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I would say most of them were all, there's something that was kind of shoved down everybody's throat without much input. But, Boone County is actually is advanced. We've been working on this collectively with the state's attorney, with attorneys, with the judges, with our staff, trying to make it as best as possible and trying to decipher what this law even means. And the interpretations is the problem, across the board from county to county. And it's been extremely confusing.
Can I do one quick follow-up? Sure. Not to get into the weeds, but where the hell did this come from?
Passed at like 1 o'clock in the morning, didn't it?
Yeah, this is the bill that passed at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's a knee-jerk reaction to the police reform, the last couple of years when things were crazy. This is a lot of Chicago. Unfortunately, they dictate what happens to our state. This is what we get to deal with, so.
Thank you.
Jamila?
How do you go about getting a pair of blue jeans out of the police department? I was chasing a heifer for the officers like for 4 hours and I tore a pair of blue jeans. So I'm just curious how I go about blue jeans.
Well, actually, if you do something wrong, we actually have some suits back in the jail that we could hook you up with.
Any questions, Sherry?
Well, I think, and I can't get over this, we'll get you a pair of jeans, honest. But what's so tragic here is that we've watched this all happen in these large urban areas. Griffin moves his hedge fund out of Chicago because his people are getting beat up on the way to work. Caterpillar leaves, Boeing leaves. At what point in time are we going to say enough is enough and the good guys need to be back? I mean, that's just me complaining.
Well, it is 2022 and there needed to be some reform. There's no question about that, but anytime there's reform, it needs to be baby steps first. I mean, we kind of progression to get where we want to get. We don't do everything in a matter of a year. And unfortunately, this was a real knee-jerk reaction. This is stuff that it was just a lot of push. There wasn't. It's a nightmare.
One last, I promise. So it sounds to me, Dave, like perhaps we need to figure out how to beef up patrol because we're letting these people out. So in keeping the public safe, we need to beef up our patrol staff. Is that a craziness?
Well, no, I think what we need to do is we need to let the dust settle because I truly believe they're going to change this.
Well, they have to.
Yeah, once people realize what's going on and what's happening to our communities, Boone County prides itself on high bonds and you go to prison forever And we have that reputation. That keeps the riffraff out, that keeps Boone County a great place to raise a family. And you can see these big urban areas, when they pass these laws down on the rural areas statewide. Well, how is that working in the urban areas? I mean, that should be your first clue. Things are working, really well in the rural areas, but again, we really have no say. We'll see what happens. It's just a lot of confusion, but I just want to kind of keep the board updated because really we need to educate the public of these new changes because people have no clue. These are important things, and we will be releasing more information. The Sheriff's Association will be releasing more information. It's just a lot of people made laws that had no idea what they were doing. So that's the unfortunate part.
Rodney Riley?
Just a quick point. Really, I know everybody's been kind of watching the budget, and I know Dave has said every month that the correction budget is high on overtime. And I'm glad you said what you said because there's counties all over the place. Where I work over in McHenry County, there's the correction officers that have less than 10, 12 years on, they're looking at possibility of layoffs come January 1st. So I think what you said too is let the dust settle. I mean, we're probably going to have to be paying more in overtime to make these cuts or to make these costs, be able to pay these people. But in the long run, try to hold on to everybody as long as we possibly can so we can see what ends up happening with this. Because you're right, there is going to have to be changes made. And you also hit it on the head when you made a comment about the bond. Boone County's notorious for that. I can remember in my early years running somebody and they came back wanted, and the bond was $35. And I thought, man, and they wanted them. I mean, you guys, it was no high bond or anything. It was $35 cash, or Boone County's coming to pick you up, even in Marengo. So that is a good reputation to have, and hopefully this gets straightened out in the long run and we get headed in the right direction.
Well, we've hired several of our corrections officers as patrolmen, probably the last 5 or 6, which have been fantastic. We will continue to do that. I've just always believed in that, not because of this, but it's just a progression. Corrections is a tough job. When we have retirements, when we have, when we hire them out of the jail, we're just going to wait and not hire. The last thing we want to do is do major layoffs initially, and then 6 months or a year down the road, they realize, oh, okay, this is broken. We got to go back to where we were. Now we're scrambling for employees, and some of our best people, are too. And these are the people that we want to maintain. We want to maintain our entire staff. If it comes down to it, and this is the way the future is going to be, we may look at things like regional jails, or so if you're not going to have many people in jail, make ours a processing center and they go elsewhere. There's a lot of things that are going to happen in the future. So yeah, clearly, the knee-jerk reactions is not really beneficial. And our overtime in corrections is actually very good right now because we have the staff and we've been able to do a lot of changes because our population is down anyway. When the state is legalized, half the stuff that was illegal before, we don't have as many people in the jail anyway. So this has just been kind of a progression.
If I remember correctly, that bill was like 600 pages. They'd sat for days, and then majority plopped it on the desk of everybody at odd end of the morning, and then gave them literally an hour to read through that, and then they were forced to vote, which they had no choice because majority pushed the bill through whether we liked it or not. So
and there has been changes, that's why January 1st of 2021, July 1st of 2021, January 1st of 2022. So there has been a lot of changes because they realized some of the changes they meant were just way out of whack. They've been able to change some of those. So there has been some positive changes back to at least where we needed to go. And we're hoping some of this stuff will continue to do that. It just takes time.
And one more question. When you say that we as in you, write a piece of paper, at what severity of crime does that go to? Obviously, if you rape or murder someone, you're not going to hand them a piece of paper. So is there a level to a crime committed that the paper is no longer the avenue, or is that everything?
Yeah, no, if we're able to prove, it's just at a higher level. If we're able to prove that it's a danger to an actual person, then, that's the state's attorneys, that's their position where they would fight to maintain that person and keep them in jail. And certain charges, clearly, we're not going to let murderers run around. There are circumstances for domestic violence to be released. There is, class X felonies for drugs. There's a lot of serious charges that are not going to be housed. So but they're all over the board. I mean, there's not just one, even on a murder case, they have to prove up that it's a danger to the community. So it's not like a given where we would think, well, you kill somebody, you probably should stay in jail. I mean, that's just kind of crazy, but that's how normal people would probably think about it. But these are things that everybody's going to have to work together to keep people in if they need to be in. But we're very creative here in Boone County. If there's ways that we can, tell us what the law is, and we'll get to the line as close as we can without crossing it. These are things that we're going to do, in conjunction with the state's attorney's office and the judges. We're still very blessed in Boone County. We all have a common goal. So we will make it as best as possible, even if it's a bad situation.
Going back to the animal.
To the genes.
The genes. But Officer Wright and Officer Funk. If I was just thinking if they ever want to do like an animal husbandry training class, I'd be more than happy to walk them out to the farm. There's the Boone County Fair, animals get out. There could be some issues. I'm just offering it. So.
Okay, very good.
idea.
Any other questions for the sheriff? Comments?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, Justin has skipped out tonight, hasn't he?
Yeah, the engineer will give his report at next week's finance meeting.
You can say it. He skipped out tonight.
No. And then I think he has one or two agenda items as well. That'll be on next week's meeting.
Awesome. All right. We'll move on to quarterly department presentations and start with administration. Dan?
Yep, so I'll just run through a few quick points here tonight. So first off, we're continuing to work towards the closing on Maple Crest Care Center. Just to remind the board, the sale was approved back in December of 2021. And so the last step on that sale is getting the survey finalized. And once that's completed and delivered to the buyer, that deal will close. So again, just keeping that on the top of our radar, we will update the board once that's done. There's been some discussion about a potential new location for the sheriff's storage building. We're continuing to work with the appraiser, Real Property Consultants, to finalize that appraisal. Last month, we talked briefly about the Comcast franchise agreement. So this agreement actually expires here in a couple weeks. The agreement, we are in negotiations with Comcast, so it'll extend beyond that date just as long as we remain in those good faith negotiations. So that's something that we're working to get done. The FY 2023 budget, we are working on a calendar, and we'll get those budget prep materials. Those are done. We'll get those out to departments here this month. I did want to make a note just based on the sheriff's comments that with the criminal justice reform, something that we'll have to think about here with the FY 2023 budget. It's going to be an unknown. I looked at the budget, so almost $900,000 in the general fund budget comes from circuit court fees, from traffic, which might not be impacted, but traffic, criminal fees, there's a general fees, we call it, and there's also operation fees. And so these are revenues that the court system relies on to operate. And when we're moving beyond cash bail or cash bond, it's going to change that funding on how the court's funded. And so not really sure what the impact will be. To be honest, we're waiting on the Illinois Municipal League, the counties associations to see. They'll do the analysis and we'll digest it. But just to put that bug out there as well, that'll have a big impact on this upcoming budget. We might not know year one right away. It might take a year or two to see what those impacts are. As far as the Boone County Public Transportation Program, so just as a reminder to the board, this is the We have a fixed route service that we work with RMTD on, and then we have on-demand service that is operated by the Boone County Council on Aging. So the reporting and the oversight for that program is run out of the administration office. We are working to get caught up on past due reporting. And so that's work continues. We got July, August, and September of last year done here recently, and now we're working on October, November, December. As far as financial update, the audit is done, and that will be presented here in a couple weeks at the July 21st county board meeting. Now that that's done, we can now pivot to the state of Illinois. There's a consolidated year-end financial report that we'll work on that we have to get done yearly. And then finally, there's a continuing disclosure requirement related to our debt. And that was completed and submitted at the end of June here. And then something that I just wanted to give a heads up to the board on is we're looking at doing it would be a comprehensive compensation study that could potentially be implemented with the FY 2023 budget. This is something that really the county lacks. We lack a pay plan, we lack pay classes and a real system as to we do that. And so what we've done is looked at other counties. McHenry County just finalized an update to their compensation study here just earlier in June. And then McLean County recently engaged a consultant to start a process for them. So we're looking at those other counties. I'm getting some RFP documents, and that's something that we'll bring back to the board to talk more about here on a potential action item. And then finally, just good news, I guess, but we did this in 2019 and then again 2022. So as part of Heritage Days, we did a city versus county community blood challenge. And so we share with employees and also just the community, but people go out to Heritage Days. There's a Rock River Valley Blood Center bus that's there, their mobile bus, and people vote, they donate blood and they vote for the city or the county. And so this year the county won, which was kind of cool. Enough blood was donated to save 129 lives, and Heritage Days presented the county with this neat plaque. So the idea is that every year we'll kind of try to grow it and get more people out. And one of the things we've talked about too is Rob Bland is the local rep for the blood center. And I've talked to him and invited him to come to a board meeting here in the next couple of months just to talk about what they do and their effort to the need for blood donations and also just their efforts locally in the community. So again, we did this in 2019. That was the first year. We didn't do it for a couple of years, but restarted this year. Gina at the city was a big part of it. She did a ton to organize this, but it's something in the future that we want to make that a tradition. Employees and everyone to go out and do that. So happy to take questions.
Any questions for Dan, Sherry?
Are Henry and or McLean County willing to share, or can we just tap into the consultant they use? This is so overdue and I'm excited and happy, but you're doing it when I'm leaving, for heaven's sakes. But anyhow, my question was, can we?
I have McHenry County. I have their final report that was just issued and presented. Their board just voted to implement that report. They also sent me the RFP document, the select they used and all the responses that they got. Theirs is a little bit different because the company that they work with, it's called Archer Company. But that's the consultant that did they developed their initial class.
Okay.
So what they paid this time, I'm not sure, if we're looking for something to do that initial structure, it might be a little bit more, but they did share those documents with me. And then I have an email out to McLean County to get that information too, so.
Terrific, Dan. Good job.
Brent, did you have a question? No? It was Dave. Shoot,
Yeah,
Dave.
just briefly on Maple Crest. We talked about back and what we were actually conveying. I'm not sure if I recall whether we saw that survey the board did, and I wondered if is that in there, the attachment?
Yeah, I can. So the final survey isn't done yet. We don't have it. When we have it, we'll share it with the board. But from my knowledge, the concern was there's an old septic field that's used now by Animal Services that at one point was Maple Crest before Maple Crest connected to Belvedere City Sewer. And so we had to make sure, we already had a ground lease defined, and that's what we wanted to sell. But we wanted to make sure that those boundaries didn't infringe upon the required setbacks for septic. It's a 5-foot setback for a septic line.
Okay.
And so I believe that was confirmed. So I guess a long-winded answer would be that the what we're selling will be what that same ground lease description was. I think it was 9-something acres, but I'll find it here.
We'll eventually get a survey.
We'll get a survey, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dan? Anything else from you, Dan? Nothing? All right, we will move on to building department. And Drew, are you on the phone? All right, Tammy, GIS, the floor is yours.
Well, as usual, I don't say beyond my report, so I don't know if anyone has any specific questions. I've been pretty busy. I did the mistake of taking a vacation, and so I'm really behind on stuff, so I didn't really get to update this that well this month. But I don't know. You looked at it? You ever look at it?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
Are you ready for questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Dave?
just kind of constantly surprised about your department's involvement in reviewing legal descriptions. And I know that surveys aren't required in Boone. Is that common with rural
Yes,
counties?
unfortunately. We ask them to please do a survey, but they don't have to record it. And most of them would rather just unfortunately complain about it than pay for the survey. And then there are others that'll actually pay for the survey, but don't want to pay the extra to record it.
I'm kind of surprised though does it work the same way that I'm used to, and that is that the title commitment gives a legal description, usually based on the previous deed. Mm-hmm. So that's what you're working off of?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we find a lot of copy paste errors. So now they're sending them to me to help fix before they're even recording, because there's still some legal descriptions out there that have been wrong since the beginning of time, and they just keep trying to get them through. But I think they've gotten used to me enough now through the years that they know I'm not going to allow them to pass unless they're correct. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Tammy? All right, thank you, Tammy. Oh, Sherry, did you have?
No.
I'd just like to say real quick so you start back. Izzy, you are up.
Good afternoon. As you know, we just finished a series of public meetings that led to a text amendment, which was approved. And so now we are taking care of some tasks that come after that, which is the new applications. And so we're working along with multiple departments on that. The other thing that we will be starting up again this quarter are meetings with the Boone County Agricultural and Conservation Easement Farmland Protection Commission, which is scheduled to meet next week. And hopefully we'll have an update then for letter of record so that they can conclude the discussions that are going on with that. We also have already more special use applications that have come through my department, which you will see in the coming months. So just staying pretty busy overall.
Thank you, Izzy. Anybody have any questions for Izzy? Will the agriculture
That
thing?
Yeah.
Will they be reporting at the lot of record?
So what we discuss, I will be reporting
Okay.
to the ad hoc letter record.
Thank you. Sherry Bartel.
I see you have some solar related meetings going on here. Is that a positive thing or is it a negative thing?
Well, I guess it just depends. We have multiple meetings this quarter with 3 solar companies. And we actually do have 2 special use applications for new solar projects, potential projects in the county, which again, you'll be seeing in the coming.
Good.
Any other questions for Izzy or comments? Anything else, Izzy?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure, go.
Sorry. The Maple Crest, this is the boundaries of what ground lease was, and this is what we envision the new survey will match that will be sold to Maple Crest.
So that full conveyance within that purple area?
Yep. Yep.
So we're holding back on the right side there by whatever that access road is?
Yep.
That's the one that goes back to the fire.
You can see these are this were the old, there's two septic fields here. That you can see these lines a little bit on the aerial, but that's why this was done. This was cut off to make sure that those old septic fields weren't on that property.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan. Moving on to section 8, written monthly departmental reports and updates. Does anybody have anything to add in that section? Tom, was your hand up? Okay. Moving on to section 9, new business. I need a motion to approve claims with the understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by Northern Illinois Service Company and all claims presented from Corin, Maine, and all claims submitted by the Boone County Highway Department. And Bill Robertson abstains from voting on all claims presented by Bill Robertson or B. Robertson Lock Service.
So moved.
Motion made by Sherry Gieske.
Second.
Seconded by Brent Mueller. Discussion?
Just let the board know, I'm gonna abstain on these claims. There's a few companies in there that sometimes are related, I think, to my company, at least doing business with my company, nothing that I have anything to do with, but so I'm just gonna abstain from them.
All right, noted. Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
No.
Aye.
Roll call, roll call.
Money.
Roll call. Ready for roll call?
Ready for roll call.
Okay, Carl Johnson abstains. Sherry Gieske?
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey?
Aye.
Ray Larson?
Aye.
Brent Mueller?
Yes.
Brian Curry?
Yes.
Tom Wahlberg?
Yes.
Bill Robertson?
Yes.
Sherry Bartell?
Yes.
Rodney Riley?
Yes.
Freddie De La Trinidad?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. 9.2, Kennewick Lake discussion. Yeah. The subject is Kennewick Lake Association, MOA County as trustee of property maintenance. This is a discussion that I believe Mr. Wiltsey had discussed earlier on upkeep and maintenance of the lots that are owned by, is it the county? Yeah, owned by the county?
Yes, just very briefly, we had talked this conceptually. There was a memo of understanding prepared by the state's attorney's office. I answered some questions of the county board members. It was sent on to the Kennewick board. Similar discussion occurred with them. Everybody wants to know about who these volunteers will be and how that will be done. The Kennewick board also tentatively approved it, put me as the point person for it. And I have reached out to the gardening club, there's actually a gardening club rather, and just said, are any of you folks interested? Because we're looking for people that, we just don't want to go in there and whack out bushes and dead tree limbs. I mean, you can see that, but we don't want to damage anything either. So I know there's at least 2 master gardeners, maybe 3 that live in Kennewick. So that's where it stands, and it will report back to you. They're meeting Saturday, but they've already got that is to say the garden club, they've already got a full agenda. I've asked to speak after the presentation, and I haven't heard back from them yet as to whether that will be available, but frankly, I only got a hold of them today. So it may be this month, it may be next month where I can get back to you with any further progress.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody have any questions or discussion in regards? All right. Thank you, Mr. Wiltsey. Thank you. Moving on to 9.3 raffles. I placed Chairman a CASA raffle on your desk.
Got that signed.
Move on to intergovernmental and updates. Anything with the landfill?
I guess the only update would be, we heard this week from TRC, who's the company that does the reporting and the technical services at the landfill. It wasn't ready for this meeting, but they are sending a 2022 scope of work that will go to the board and will need to be approved by the county board. And so as soon as we have that document, we'll get it on a board agenda for approval. We've also talked with the project manager, her name is Michelle, about maybe coming to the county board. To be honest, the landfill was really, Ken Terinone's long time project. He really oversaw that involvement. And so I think, and even on the current board, we don't talk about it a lot. And so we've talked about getting her, giving a presentation on just the status and updates. And we've also talked about doing some sort of a tour on site and inviting the county board members and any other staff members from both the county and the city who'd want to go out. So that's the update for tonight.
Perfect.
Good question, Kevin, let's say, Dan. Kevin had brought up that we're replacing the soil pipe, the pipes, the seat pipes. Is that still being done or are those all completed?
I think it was I believe it was
They're all
already done.
completed?
Yeah, but that's not, we can check and get,
Okay.
I believe that was done. And they were starting to already do the monitoring and get the reporting on what the results were from those new wells.
Still pushing in that direction so that we have less reporting. Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Dan? All right. Moving on to 11.1 correspondence. Anything? UCCI or advocacy groups? Board member comments.
I'll take that.
This
What I put out under board member comments was a copy of the compensation mileage rules for us. And then the second thing that you will see is that per diem and mileage report that we fill out each month to be compensated. And the reason I did that was because there's going to be some new board members. And I thought it might be a good idea for us, number one, to go through that list, if you can show the second thing, the list of all the committees that are there. And not that I'm the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I've been around for almost 8 years, and some of those I have no idea what the heck they are. And then there's some that should be added, the ad hoc committees and the land bank. So what I'm suggesting that we do is go through that list and let's get some history behind how they were there. And if you read the per diem, there is some language in here about standing committees who are blah, blah, blah. So we'll track back to that. And what I'm thinking we'll be doing is tidying that up, asking ourselves, why do we appoint people to these or why don't we appoint people to these? And then clean that up so that by the time we get new board members on December 1st, I'm hoping we'll have a simple outline to give to them on how this works. And then it will also play over into Julie, to the staff in the circuit clerk's office, who they seem to be the only gatekeeper here. And I think it would help them also to have clear rules about what is and what isn't. So I will call upon Dan to help out, or else I'll do as much research as I can. Is that all right, Dan? Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then if we don't use them, then Carl or whoever's running the meeting would have to ask each one of those, at a board meeting, is there any update? Because then we'll have probably clarified it a lot more. Thank you.
Freddie?
No, I think a great idea. I would just add like at the very bottom, like an other committee, just because when we had the rodeo committee, I didn't know what to put on there. So just a heads up for that.
Well, and that's exactly one of the things I thought of, because for 2.5 years, we've had ad hoc committees, and not until today did I know that those qualified to be reimbursed. And so what I'm thinking is when we straighten this out, we'll have ad hoc committee and then a couple of blank lines, because we could have, any number of them and you can just fill it in and then calculate it out there. Okay. So I don't know if that makes sense, but thank you, Freddie.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Prior to our primary election, we all know Mr. Schwacker tendered his resignation. And at that time, I let the board know that I was going to wait until District 2 had their primary election and see who the highest vote getter was that wasn't currently on the board, and appoint that person to fulfill that remainder of Mr. Schwacker's seat. That person would be Alyssa Patterson. Mr. Curry, myself, and Mr. Wahlberg all were successful in our primaries, as you all know. Ms. Patterson was the other successful candidate in the Republican Party. So I would like a special board meeting right prior to next month's or next week's Finance Committee meeting, just to appoint her. She will not be in town. She'll be back for the full county board meeting. But if we get her appointed to that position, then she can be sworn in at or prior to the full board meeting, but we can get her set up with an email account, any information that she needs, those kinds of things. So I'd like to be able to do that. If anybody has any objections to that, let me know. To me, that seems like the right thing. The voters have spoken in that district as to who they want. So I think that's the best way to appoint that position. So if we could get 4 people to sign, it's 4, right? Sign forms at some point prior to maybe the end of the week, which is tomorrow, Monday, or like by Monday or something like that, just to fill out forms to ask for that special board meeting. I'd appreciate that, just so we can get her set up. And that would be the only thing on that agenda.
Mr. Wiltsey?
My sister's 8th surgery on her shoulder in the last 2 years has now been set for August 2nd. So I'm going to try to make the meetings personally, but I may have to. That's why I'm wearing a mask, is to protect her. So we'll see how that goes, but I'll keep the clerk chairman posted. Next week, I'm coming back from Minnesota from fishing. I don't know if I'll make it here by 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiltsey. Anybody else? Mr. Mueller?
I will not be here next week. I'll be in South Dakota. Shoot. As long as you're throwing it out there, Dave.
Anybody else?
Anybody going to be here next week?
I might be somewhere as well. Mr. Robertson, did you go on vacation again to Alaska or what?
My Alaska vacation was a disaster.
Oh, no.
Why?
We got through the first 5 days. They tested everybody on the tour. 8 people tested positive, and they sent all the spouses home. So we lost 16 people on the first 5th day of the tour. And I was able to get a flight back to O'Hare, and the other people were as well. The people that went to Canada didn't fare as well. When they tested them in Canada and they had a problem, they quarantined them for 11 days and sent the spouse home. And then before they got on the ship, there's 19 couples started and only 5 got on the ship.
Oh.
And the people that got tested before they got on the ship, there were no flights out of Sitka. So they had to quarantine, and then they had to get on a car ship and take that several days to get to somewhere where they could get a flight. So it was the trip from hell.
Hopefully they reimburse you and let you go again.
Well, I don't know. Fortunately, I bought the insurance, so I'll let you know in a couple months.
Sorry to hear that. It's awful. Everybody's okay? Anybody else?
Well, just in response, I know people that, they constantly do these cruises, but the rules are you go in a mask and you take it down and take a sip of wine and, and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of these people are backing off and not going. So you were only out there 5 days, Bill?
Yeah, we only got, the tour was 14 days and we got 5. And it cost us $1,100 to fly back. We don't know if we'll get that or not, but it is what it is. Life has some interesting things for you. So.
Ship? Big ship?
No.
Oh, okay.
You know how to make you feel better? One of these delicious cupcakes.
Yeah, let's pass out.
I can't wait. Are we on to adjournment?
That was a motion.
That was just a motion.
We have no, yes, go ahead, Mr. Wiltsey.
Second.
Okay, there we go.
Are we adjourning?
We have one piece of business.
So we have no executive session? But
It just reminded me, Michelle sent out an email today in talking about per diem and mileage. The IRS did something kind of unprecedented. They adjusted mileage up effective July 1st. They normally only do it in January.
January 1st, yeah, I was shocked.
Board members submitting reports for their July mileage, it went from 58.5 cents to 62.5 cents.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna matter.
there goes, hey,
I think-
your trip reimbursed.
I mean, we would have to ask State Attorney's Office, but I think our ordinance says that it's effective whatever the IRS,
Beginning of the year.
yeah, thing is at the beginning of the year, January 1st, whatever it is, that's it for the year.
We did that in 2018. The intent was, the idea was to set it always to the IRS. It never changes in July. But the idea is that it always sticks with that IRS business.
I think the language was pretty specific because there was times it would go up and down.
But I thought,
Fast.
I didn't think
We set it as January, whatever it is in January. If it goes up, it goes up. If it goes down, it goes down. Whatever it was set at in January. I mean, I guess I defer to the State's Attorney's Office to maybe take a peek at it.
Yeah.
See, but I think that was.
It's in the personnel policy, so.
I didn't think we put a date in. We just
My retirement.
adhered to the IRS guidelines, but you could very well be right.
It does say January.
Oh, it does? Well, okay, there you go.
There goes my retirement.
Yeah. Ooh.
Get security in here to escort us to our vehicles since we're making so much money. All right, does anybody else have anything else? I need one motion for adjournment.
Bill made it. I said.
Bill made it. Motion made by Bill Robertson, second by Dave Wiltsey. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.